So next I'm talking to William Vambenepe. Vambenepe, is that right? Okay. For Google, William, you are leading the big data team in Mountain View. Can you explain what you are doing exactly in Mountain View?
Sure. So big data is part of Google Cloud Platform, so the larger platform for application hosting, storage, etc. And within that, some of the services, those that I'm responsible for, are the services used to process data at large scale. Mm-hmm. So it's services like BigQuery for large scale SQL analytics, and that's the one, for example, which can take data from Google Analytics Premium and be exported there for further analytics. And then there are other services. We announced recently Cloud Data Flow, a very simple, high-performance way to run data processing pipelines in stream mode or batch mode. We do a lot of work around Hadoop and Spark to be able to run those open source systems. We have PubSub for event ingestion. So there's a large portfolio and an always growing portfolio of tools that make it very easy to be productive with data at large scale, just like Google engineers internally are. We want everybody to have access to those tools and be able to innovate and create new applications.
Why should companies who have raw data in addition to Google Analytics? What is your meaning for that?
So companies who use Google Analytics get a lot of value from those dashboards and all the tools that are designed specifically for analyzing traffic and application. The reason why some want to go into cloud platform and specifically into BigQuery is manifold. One is just having a general engine, something that can apply any computation on unsampled data, on the raw data. And so you can run any SQL query you want, and BigQuery is able to run on huge data sets in very short time. Or you can even use non-BigQuery. Once data it's in BigQuery, but in effect it's on cloud platform. So all the other cloud platform services can get to it. Cloud Data Flow, Hadoop, Spark. So it really brings the data to the platform. It also brings more. You can also bring more data into it, and that's probably the biggest reason is that once your Google Analytics data is in BigQuery, you can also bring marketing data, CRM data, marketing automation, partnership, like all this extra data that is relevant can be in the same place, and you can analyze it all together through any dimension you want. And so it really expands the scope of possibilities very, very broadly.
And do you have concrete use cases of
Sure.
what people are going to make with a BigQuery?
Sure. So for example, we have examples who bring weather data, and so if you're looking at even online interactions, like obviously when you're in the real world, people who go shopping, okay, the weather influences them. But actually, even for online interaction, if you're booking a holiday, like the weather in your city as you're on your computer booking the holiday actually influences your choices as well. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that you wouldn't know just by looking at your logs, right? If your logs are not aware of that. Mm-hmm. So that's one example of additional context. Or people who bring, data about coupons and other promotions or partnerships that they've put together and really can enrich or demographic data, and so using that to enrich the raw click data and get true insight out of this, which might not be available without that extra perspective.
Okay, interesting. It is often said that there's a barrier between digital analytics and business intelligence. What do you think about that in regard to big data now? Is that barrier still existing?
I think tools like Cloud Platform are removing the barrier in terms of preventing communication. I think now with those tools, you can have the data be available for all use cases. I think there's still a difference. What the value of the data takes many forms. So in some cases, the traditional form is better informed users. As a business owner, as an application owner, by having business intelligence, I learn things about my user, about my application, and so I can make decisions, about how to drive the application. And that's not going away, and that's still going to be useful. But there's also another use cases where it's much more of a closed loop, where the application itself, the behavior of the application is directly informed by the analytics, and there's no human necessarily in the loop. When you do recommendations, it's not, like that becomes automated, right? You don't have, user Joe probably wants to buy, a car. Like, that if you have to have a human in the loop, that's irrelevant, right? So both are important, having better informed application and product owners and having smarter applications. What we're seeing with cloud is both can happen on the same data, using the same tools in Google Cloud Platform and having the same consistent view. But the two types of use cases, I think, will remain distinct because they serve two different needs.
Okay. How can people usually use BigQuery to be ahead of its competition?
I think it's, to something what I was describing earlier, that as you use cloud, there are several ways to use cloud. You can use cloud just as a different place to run your computing, and you get some cost saving, and then you get you get capacity more quickly. So there are benefits there, but that's kind of just taking the current model into cloud. And then the part that really puts you ahead is leveraging cloud really in a way that transforms the way you develop application, the way you develop insights. So benefiting from the fact that people can experiment very quickly. With tools like BigQuery, with tools like Dataflow, you can test an idea right away. On the same day, for a few dollars, you can test it, even if it requires large-scale computation, because you're just paying for the queries that you need. You're just paying for a few seconds in the case of BigQuery. And so it really removes barriers to experimentation because it's easy to use, because it's cheap, because you don't need any IT involvement. And so that is really what creates business advantage, because it's only by quickly iterating and throwing away things that don't work and refining things that work that you come up with the right application, the right decision. And so there's no magic to it, but a platform that lets you be very, very dynamic and iterate very quickly is what will put you ahead.
Okay. Why would you say that BigQuery is very advanced and for very advanced analysts only, or what would you say? Is it for basic analysts also useful?
It can be used by either. BigQuery itself is a very advanced engine. It's a very powerful engine. It's leading edge by any measure in industry. But the consumption surface is actually very simple and familiar. It's SQL. So there's a large number of people. You don't have to be a top-notch developer to know SQL. Now that's not everybody, but for people who know SQL, it's very accessible. And then lots of people, lots of analysts don't really, even if they know it, don't really want to write SQL queries. And so for those, there's lots of tools from partners such as Tableau and others, or trained consultant who can build dashboard that still use the power and the performance and the cost efficiency of BigQuery without having to write any code. So I think the engine itself really supports both types of customers and both usage models.
Okay, let us look into the future. What can companies expect from BigQuery in the next years?
In general, I think in terms of BigQuery and really the whole big data portfolio, what people will see is a switch towards real-time processing. I mean, there is this perception that when you're dealing with big data sets, it has to be in batch. There's just too much data to deal with, and that's something that we want to change that perception. So BigQuery already supports streaming ingestion. You can pump 100,000 new lines in a single table every second. And so, and that's true for every table in your data set. So it can ingest events right as they arrive, and your query takes a few seconds. So you get a really fresh look on what's going on. Other products like Dataflow, which we're introducing, create a way to write a data processing pipeline that executes in real time as well, to do fraud detection, to do anomaly. And so all those things are infrastructure which we're making available in Cloud Platform, which make it really, really easy to not wait and to do everything in real time by default. Of course, you still support batch, because sometimes you want to reprocess historical information over a long time period. So that is supported, but by default, why wait? So I think that's a mental switch that will happen, and people will get much fresher data, much more relevant results, as they realize that the tools are there, which now make that easy.
Okay. William, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thank
and
you.
have a nice day in Hamburg.
Thanks.